Mary liked her mother from far away. She thought her mother was pretty, but Mary did not know her mother well, so she did not love her or miss her. Mary was a child who only thought about herself. She did not miss her mother at all. She thought she would always be taken care of. She just wanted to go to nice people. She wanted them to be polite and let her do what she wanted, like her ayah and the other servants did. Mary knew she would not stay in the English clergyman's house. She went there first. She did not want to stay. The clergyman was poor. He had 5 children, almost all the same age. They wore old clothes and always argued. Mary hated their messy house. She was so rude to them that no one would play with her. Soon they gave her a nickname she hated. Basil was a boy Mary hated. She was playing alone under a tree, making a garden with dirt. Basil came and watched. He got interested and suddenly made a suggestion. "Why don't you put a heap of stones there and pretend it is a rockery?" he said. "There in the middle," and he leaned over her to point. "Go away," cried Mary. "I don't want boys. Go away." For a moment, Basil looked angry. Then he began to tease. He danced around her, he made faces and sang and laughed. "Mistress Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and marigolds all in a row." He sang it until the other children heard and laughed too. The angrier Mary got, the more they sang, "Mistress Mary, quite contrary, with silver bells and cockle shells." And marigolds all in a row. After that, they always called her Mistress Mary Quite Contrary. "You're going to be sent home," Basil said to her, "at the end of the week." "And we're glad of it." "I am glad of it too," answered Mary. "Where is home?" She doesn't know where home is, said Basil with 7-year-old scorn. It's England, of course. Our grandmama lives there, and our sister Mabel was sent to her last year. You are not going to your grandmama. You have none. You are going to your uncle. His name is Mr. Archibald Craven. I don't know anything about him, snapped Mary. I know. You don't know anything. Girls never do. I heard Father and Mother talking about him. He lives in a great, big, desolate old house in the country, and no one goes near him. He's so cross he won't let them, and they wouldn't come if he would let them. He's a hunchback, and he's horrid. I don't believe you, said Mary, and she turned her back and stuck her fingers in her ears because she would not listen anymore. But she thought about it a lot later. That night, Mrs. Crawford told her she would sail to England in a few days. She would go to her uncle, Mr. Archibald Craven, who lived at Misselthwaite Manor. Mary looked stony and not interested. They tried to be kind, but Mary turned her face away when Mrs. Crawford tried to kiss her. She stood stiffly when Mr. Crawford patted her shoulder. She is such a plain child, Mrs. Crawford said sadly. And her mother was such a pretty person. She had a very pretty way of acting, too. Mary has the most unlikable ways I ever saw in a child. The children called her Mistress Mary quite contrary, and though it's naughty of them, one can't help understanding it. Her mother barely looked at her, Mrs. Crawford sighed. After her ayah died, no one cared for the child. The servants left her alone in the empty house. Colonel McGrew found her standing by herself in the middle of the room. Mary sailed to England with an officer's wife. The wife was busy with her own children and was happy to give Mary to Mrs. Medlock in London. Mrs. Medlock was Mr. Craven's housekeeper. She was a strong woman with red cheeks and sharp black eyes. She wore a purple dress and a black hat with shaking purple flowers. Mary did not like her. But Mary rarely liked people. Mrs. Medlock did not think much of Mary either. "My word, she's a plain little piece of goods," she said. "And we'd heard that her mother was a beauty. She hasn't handed much of it down, has she, ma'am?" "Perhaps she will improve as she grows older," the officer's wife said kindly. "If she were not so pale and had a nicer expression, her face is rather good." "Children change so much." "She'll have to alter a good deal," answered Mrs. Medlock. "And there's nothing likely to improve children at Misselthwaite, if you ask me." Mary stood by the window, watching people outside. She heard them talking. She became very curious about her uncle and his home. She wondered what a hunchback was, as she had never seen one. Living without her ayah, Mary felt lonely. She started to think new thoughts. She wondered why she never felt like she belonged to anyone, even with her parents alive. Other children had parents who cared. She had servants, food, and clothes, but no one noticed her. She didn't know she was disagreeable, though she often thought others were. Mary thought Mrs. Medlock was the most disagreeable person, with her loud face and hat. The next day they traveled to Yorkshire. Mary walked far from Mrs. Medlock, not wanting to seem like she belonged to her. She would have been very angry if people thought she was Mrs. Medlock's child. Mrs. Medlock was not bothered by Mary. She was a woman who would not take nonsense from children. She did not want to go to London, but she had a good job as housekeeper at Misselthwaite Manor. She had to do what Mr. Archibald Craven told her, so she went. She never asked questions. Captain Lennox and his wife died of the cholera. Captain Lennox was my wife's brother, and I am their daughter's guardian. The child is to be brought here. You must go to London and bring her yourself." So she packed her small bag and made the journey. Mary sat quietly in the train corner, looking plain and unhappy. She had nothing to do. Her black dress and hat made her look even paler. "I never saw such a plain-looking child," Mrs. Medlock thought. She had never seen a child sit so still. She got tired of watching and started to talk in a quick, hard voice. "I suppose I may as well tell you something about where you are going to," she said. "Do you know anything about your uncle?" "No," said Mary. "Never heard your father and mother talk about him?" "No," said Mary, frowning. She frowned because her parents had never talked to her about anything important. "Huh," muttered Mrs. Medlock, staring at her strange, quiet face. She did not say anything for a few moments, then she started again. "I suppose you might as well be told something to prepare you." "You're going to a queer place." Mary said nothing. Mrs. Medlock looked a little surprised by her lack of interest. But after taking a breath, she went on. "It's a grand, big place, but it's gloomy. Mr. Craven is proud of it, but it's still gloomy. The house is 600 years old. It's on the edge of the moor. There are almost 100 rooms, but most are locked. There are old pictures and furniture. There's a big park, gardens, and trees with long branches. She paused and took another breath. "But there's nothing else," she finished suddenly. Mary started to listen. It sounded so different from India, and new things interested her. But she did not want to look interested. That was her way, so she sat still. "Well," said Mrs. Medlock, "what do you think of it?" "Nothing," she answered. "I know nothing about such places." That made Mrs. Medlock laugh a short laugh. she said, but you are like an old woman. Don't you care? It doesn't matter, said Mary, whether I care or not. You are right enough there, said Mrs. Medlock. It doesn't. Why you're to be kept at Misselthwaite Manor I don't know, unless because it's the easiest way. He's not going to trouble himself about you, that's sure and certain. He never troubles himself about no one. She stopped as if she had just remembered something important. He's got a crooked back, she said. That made him wrong. He was a sour young man. He got no good from all his money and big house until he was married. Mary's eyes turned toward her. She had never thought of the hunchback being married. She was a little surprised. Mrs. Medlock saw this. As she was a talkative woman, she continued with more interest. This was one way to pass the time. She was a sweet, pretty thing. He would have walked the world over to get her a blade of grass she wanted. Nobody thought she'd marry him, but she did, and people said she married him for his money. But she didn't, she said strongly. When she died, Mary gave a little sudden jump. Oh, did she die? She exclaimed, quite without meaning to. She remembered a fairy story about a poor hunchback and a beautiful princess. It made her suddenly feel sorry for Mr. Archibald Craven. Yes, she died, answered Mrs. Medlock, and it made him stranger than ever. He cares about nobody. He won't see people. Most of the time he goes away. When he is at Misselthwaite, he shuts himself up in the West Wing. He won't let anyone but Pitcher see him. Pitcher's an old fellow, but he took care of him when he was a child, and he knows his ways. It sounded like a sad story. Mary did not feel happy. A house with 100 locked rooms on the edge of a moor? It sounded dreary. A man with a crooked back who shut himself away? She looked out the window. It started to rain heavily. She thought that the pretty wife were alive. She might have made things cheerful, like her own mother, but she was gone. You needn't expect to see him, because it's very likely you won't. And you mustn't expect that there will be people to talk to you. You'll have to play about and look after yourself. You'll be told what rooms you can go into and what rooms you're to keep out of. There's gardens enough, but when you're in the house, don't go wandering and poking about. Mr. Craven won't have it. I shall not want to go poking about, said sour little Mary. Just as suddenly as she had begun to feel sorry for Mr. Archibald Craven, she stopped feeling sorry. She began to think he was unpleasant enough to deserve all that had happened to him. She turned her face toward the wet window of the train car. She looked out at the gray rainstorm. It looked as if it would go on forever. She watched it for so long that the grayness grew heavier before her eyes. Then she fell asleep.